On everyone, looks like we are live a few minutes late as per usual. I see you down in the chat. Damron, where's Luke at though? Late as per usual. That's my normal thing here. I'm never on time pretty much for anything in real life. Sorry about that, guys, but hey, better late than never. Going to be covering the single round slate for today, our player pool, some weather, get you guys prepared whether you're playing on FanDuel or over there on Draftkings. And we're getting up close to lock, so no time to spare. Let's go ahead and hop right on into it. First off, with the weather that you guys can see, just another day of perfect conditions. The weather might be a little bit cooler than they would like. You're going to see a lot of guys with long sleeves on today, especially there in the morning. But in terms of wind, not really anything to speak of, right? Early in the morning, 4 to 5 miles an hour, sustained winds. That usually means 10, maybe 15 mile an hour gusts if it gets real windy out there, which is going to be perfect scoring conditions for these players. Exactly what we saw on Thursday and Friday. So we're not expecting a whole lot of change there. In terms of how the course played yesterday, take a look at Pebble Beach. It played a little bit easier than what it did on day one, right? So if we take a look at day one, it played to 1.2 strokes under par, and day two is 1.7. Now, a little bit of that is due to this talent gap. A lot of the people that were playing on Friday at Pebble Beach were just better players, right? That's the prime time for golf. A lot of people were tuning in last night and they wanted to be able to highlight the best players in the field. So not really a surprise for me. You'll see that a lot of the best players in the field also playing Pebble Beach again today. So it's like they saved them for last, which for obvious reasons does make a lot of sense. Take a look at Monterey Peninsula. That played to 1.1 strokes under par, which was slightly harder than what we saw in round one. The difference between Monterey in round one and round two, and the same thing between Pebble in round one and round two, are almost identical, right? It goes from 1.5 down over here to 1.1, which is a 0.4 shots gained difference. And with Pebble Beach, it goes from 1.7 to, I believe, right around 1.3, right? So a little bit larger for Pebble Beach, but that's the talent gap. Anytime we see that, a difference between the waves, that's exactly how we can tell what that is. So you can see that's about a 0.4 shots gained difference between this wave, the one that was playing Pebble Beach yesterday, and pretty much the rest of the field. That's not really going to change our modeling, right? But that's something that we have to keep in mind when we're taking a look at how these golf courses play. Spyglass Hill was hard regardless. You can see it played to 0.1 strokes under par. Today, you're going to see a lot of the bad players in the field, the people that are part of the weakest of the three waves, playing at Spyglass Hill. So this scoring average should maybe even be close to 1 over par. It's going to be a little bit of a shit show over there, particularly because a lot of those guys are also out of contention. So this polarization that we've seen between the golf courses should only increase going into Saturday. What does all of that mean, right? With all of those big words there, it means that we're going to be targeting Monterey Peninsula and Pebble Beach just as we were in round one and round two. A lot of people are going to be trying to side towards Pebble Beach because they see this minus 1.7. Of course, Monterey only down here at 1.1, but we know by taking a look at the round one stats that that's a little bit skewed, right? Should be a little bit closer to maybe 1.3 and 1.3. They're about the same difficulty if we go ahead and average these twos out. So I'm not really going to have preference towards one or the other. Pretty much just only want to take guys from Monterey or Pebble Beach, though. Spyglass Hill going to be completely eliminated from my player pool, which isn't necessarily different than what we saw the last few days. But at the same time, I did mix in a few people from Spyglass on day one and day two. That is not going to be the case for today. There's going to be a lot of really trash golfers over there. There might be 1 or 2 exceptions in the field, which I guess we can go ahead and talk about, but it's not like they're going to be low owned. Let's go ahead down to the chat here. I'll remind you, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to go ahead and put them down there. Remember, it says, thanks for winning bets yesterday. Ted Potter Jr. today. It's always Ted Potter Jr. day. And the winning bets, yeah, man, I think I went 8 for 8. I had 2 pushes. I won like $1,300 in prize picks. So I can't complain about that at all. Francis says no Fitzpatrick today. He plays Spyglass. Let's go ahead and talk about it right now. So let's go ahead and we have the player pool on the screen. I believe it's streaming. Yes, it is. And you can see that Matt Fitzpatrick down here is $9,300 playing Spyglass. Unfortunately, I also have him with a pretty decent amount of ownership. I mean, he was 6 under, 7 under at one point yesterday, ended up kind of throwing away his round towards the end, ended up at 4 under par. He's expensive. He's also coming in with relatively high ownership. It'd be one thing if he was coming in at like 5-6%. But as of right now, my algorithm has him with a pretty healthy amount of ownership there. So yeah, no Fitzpatrick for me today. If you really like the course fit, I mean, I hope he wins the golf tournament. I have an outright bet on the guy. You can go ahead and play him, but it's not my favorite play. Let's talk about a few guys that I'm a little bit more prone to playing here. At the top of the board, Patrick Cantlay. This is really the first time I think I'm going to be jumping on board here. Yesterday, his 4-under was far from optimal in GPPs. He was playing Spyglass Hill, right? So that was pretty much his ceiling performance to get to something like 4 under par. Today at Pebble Beach, that ceiling something like 8, 9, maybe even 10 under par if you go out there and have a spectacular round. So I will be in on Patrick Cantlay in this circumstance. Of course, in round one, I believe he shot 6, 7 under par. That, of course, was at Monterey Peninsula, which is pretty much the same difficulty as what he's going to see today. In terms of the course fits, you can see he's top 3 among all 3. He's the lowest there at Pebble Beach in Monterey Peninsula. So I guess we would have wanted to take him yesterday, but again, the upside was capped, right? So it's kind of annoying that his best fits over there at Spyglass. We couldn't really take advantage of it. But either way, I do like him today. You can see he's coming in with modest ownership. Because he didn't really pay off yesterday, a lot of people in the prize picks market were trying to take Cantlay props, and I tried telling you guys that it probably wasn't a good idea. It's just a low upside golf course, right? It's hard to go out there and have a spectacular game when you're dealing with tiny fairways, tiny greens, and greens that are extremely complex. So today's a much better situation for him. Same thing with Jordan Spieth. He was also over there at Spyglass Hill. This is why we avoided him yesterday, but with a much easier setup. The guy's ball striking has been there. To this point of the week, the putter went away, and the putter was there at Torrey Pines. He was making a ton of putts. He doesn't typically do that on Poa Anua, but last week had the magic flat stick working. This week, it's the flip-flop. You know, he figured out the ball striking. The off-the-tee play has been amazing for Jordan Spieth. If he can figure out how to make a few putts, the guy's going to put up a crazy low round. He gets Pebble Beach the last 2 days. And I'm considering adding him an outright bet. He's at like 40, 50 to 1 right now because he's like 8, 9 strokes behind. If there's one guy in the field that can make up that much ground in 2 days, it's Jordan Spieth, particularly at this type of golf course. I mean, he can take this thing to 8, 9 under par the next few days, and it would not surprise me. And I don't expect Seamus Power to get to like 25 under par. Expect him to probably get to like 22, 23 under par. So if you think anyone in the field can get to that type of score, and they have a number that you want to bet, you might want to consider it. So that's what I'm considering with Jordan Spieth. He's also my favorite player in the world, so take it with a grain of salt. A guy I'm not going to be playing, Jason Day, much like a Matt Fitzpatrick playing Spyglass Hill. Again, he's somebody I have a lot of investment behind, so I hope he plays well today. But the ceiling isn't going to be there. Maverick McNeely has been a fade for me the entire week. At one point, he was minus 125 to win this golf tournament on DraftKings Sportsbook, which I'm hoping was a mistake. I'm hoping that wasn't something that they set there on purpose, because for him to be minus money after 4 holes is maybe the dumbest line that I've ever seen. I actually ended up grabbing a few people from the board as soon as that happened, because when one guy has half of the win equity in a field, literally anyone else in the field that you want to bet, it could have been a random name if you wanted to, is going to have a ton of expected value. So I fired like 6 bets as soon as that happened. I doubled down on Matt Fitzpatrick. I ended up adding a Jordan Spieth ticket, then ended up adding a Cantlay ticket. Then Cantlay was like 7 to 1, and that's when he was also like 3, 4 under par. So that's why the whole Maverick McNeely thing made no sense. So yeah, you guys got to try and take advantage of these things when they come up, because sometimes sports books are just flat out stupid. Let's move on a little bit lower. Justin Rose here, $9,400. I really like him today. The ball striking has been there for the last 2-3 events. It's a solid price tag at $9,400. Playing Pebble Beach, which is what we like to see. And he's not super chalk, right? I have him at 16% right now. There's guys that are nearly 30% in this field. So if you want to go ahead and start a lineup with Justin Rose, he would pretty much guarantee that you're going to be unique. Going down a little bit further, Cameron Tringale has been playing like absolute shit. I wouldn't recommend playing him. Seamus Power is going to be nearly 30% owned. He's playing at the Monterey Peninsula course. And much like we said with Tom Hoge, it's hard enough to back up when you put up a really low round, let alone 2 low rounds in a row. And we played Seamus Power yesterday. I have that touch sometimes, right, to be able to feel like when these heaters are going to end. And we played Seamus Power in bulk yesterday because we expected that heater to continue. He's playing the easiest golf course. People are going to be all over him today. It feels like that's going to end. So I'm going to be off of him today. It's not like I hate the play, right? I don't have him down as a no. It's not somebody I'm just like excluding from the field because I don't like the course fit. It's more of a game theory play, right? He could easily come in closer to 40% owned because of the price tag, because he's in first by 5 or 6 points. But at the same time, guys, it doesn't matter. Being in first place doesn't matter for third round showdown. You don't get placement points, right? So his placement Does not matter, right? He's got to go out there and shoot 6, 7 under par today to be in the optimal lineup. And to expect him to do that 3 days in a row, again, there's that old adage in golf. It's hard enough to do it 1 day in a row, 2 days in a row, pretty much impossible. 3, pretty much unheard of. So he goes out there and he bucks that trend. Good for him. Statistically, it's extremely unlikely for that to happen. So I'm going to be off of him. Matt Fitzpatrick, same story. We already talked about him. He's playing at the Spyglass Hill course. That is not ideal. Kevin Kisner, Kevin Streelman, you can go to both Kevins if you'd like to. Both haven't looked very good to this point of the week, but both are going to be relatively low owned. I mean, these guys were closer to 20% in the 4-round contest. So to be getting them at the single digit mark would be pretty nice. Ryan Palmer he played horribly yesterday. Avoid him at all costs. I believe in the last 7 holes, he was 8 over par. So that should tell you everything you need to know. Lanto Griffin, he's been playing all right. You could convince me to play some Lanto Griffin, but he's not a priority. I like guys like Bazane Hoot a little bit more. Same thing with Brian Harmon. They've been putting much better of late, especially Bazane Hoot, who's been on absolute fire. He's really been carrying himself with that putter, which can be a little bit scary at times. But at these shorter tracks, it really plays into his skill set. If there's anything he's good at with his irons, it is that wedge play. Everything else, he's pretty atrocious. So I do like him at a course like Pebble Beach. That's, again, less than 7,000 yards. Brian Harmon at $8,500, you can convince me to play. He's playing at the easiest golf course. Yesterday was hitting almost every fairway, almost every single green in regulation. He had a lot of those props for us. The issue is he literally could not buy a putt for his life. He had, I believe, 6 or 7 putts within 10 feet that he missed. The only birdies that he made, he chipped in for one of them, and one of them was a par 5, where he reached the green in 2 and he 2-putted. So if he can find a way to make some putts, which historically you can see he's a great putter on Poa Nua, he's in for a massive day. And Brian Harmon, guys, if you guys are new to DFS or weren't playing early in last year, or even the middle part of 2021, this guy was making the cut literally every single week. He was finishing in the top 25 pretty much every single week. And we rode him on the channel here for 3 or 4 months at a time. Like he was that consistent for us. He completely fell off the rails at the end of 2021, but he's starting to look like Brian Harmon of late, which is somebody who doesn't make bogeys. I mean, this guy is one of the best in the world in terms of bogey avoidance, which isn't the best for this type of golf course, right? You're going out trying to hope that they make a bunch of birdies. So perhaps he gets that bogey avoidance bonus, though. That's huge for some of these 1-round events. Mackenzie Hughes, he's good at these shorter type of events. You could convince me to play him. Denny McCarthy's also playing at the easiest golf course. The thing I really like about Denny here is even though he's not a very good putter on Poa Nua, it's why he's not really contending at any of these West Coast events, we have really flat greens at Monterey Peninsula. So even if you absolutely suck at putting on Poa, there also tend to be some of the best greens on tour. I mean, you've heard tour players from Monterey saying that the greens there are just immaculate. Very similar to what you see next door at Cypress Point, which is one of the best, if not the best golf courses in the entire world. They're owned by the same company and they're maintained by the same company. So those greens over there are absolutely immaculate. So if there's any Poa Nua greens that Denny McCarthy is going to have success on, it's the greens that he's putting on today at Monterey. So that's why I'm on him. I've been off of him for all the other rounds, but this is the round. If he's going to turn it around, it's going to be here. Lucas Glover was the same thing with Ryan Palmer. But if there's anybody that can just go from sucking to going absolutely nuclear, it's Lucas Glover. He does it time and time again. So he's dead for 4-round stuff. He's sure as shit not making the cut. But for Showdown today, I'll be playing him just in case he decides to go out there and have a day. Chris Kirk there at $7,600. He's also playing at Monterey Peninsula. He had a solid day yesterday. He was in a bunch of our Showdown lineups. Going to be on him once again. Let's actually go ahead and take a little bit of a pause here. See if there's any questions, comments down in the chat. You said you like Fitzpatrick and Jordan Spieth. Fitzpatrick, no, because he's playing Spyglass Hill. Not a huge fan of him. Jordan Spieth, though, yes, he's playing Pebble Beach. Absolutely do like Jordan Spieth. He said, let's get it. Let's get it, man. Hopefully today is a big day on the prize picks and DFS market. Drummer Bear says, for Deacon weekend tourneys, can you name a couple of guys you'd key on? So I'll do that at the end. I'll bring up the pricing board because I know it's a little bit different. But yeah, we'll talk about that because placement points are important there. And who are your two favorite guys? We'll get to that at the end, man. We got to go through the entire player pool first, and then we'll touch on some of our key plays and stuff. So we'll do that at the end. I won't forget to do that. All right. Let's move on to this mid-tier range. These are going to be some of the guys that we're really depending on because, guys, the thing is in Showdown, right, you got to have the optimal lineup. So you got to be willing to leave quite a bit of salary on the table pretty much for every single Showdown lineup. at least for the large field GPP where we have the 20,000, 30,000 entries, that type of thing. Looking at $500 to $1,000 left on the table for most of the events. So keep that in mind. This 7, 8K range is absolutely vital for rounds like this. And of course, the reason why is that there's more volatility, right? When we're dealing with a smaller sample size, the cream isn't able to rise to the top. When we have a whole 4-round event, you see a lot of the better players assert themselves over that larger sample size. But again, for these, we've historically seen a lot of salary left on the table. Guys that I'd be willing to go to here, Keith Mitchell's playing Pebble Beach. He hasn't had the greatest week so far, but you can see in terms of the recent form, he's one of the best players in the field, and he's somebody you can get hot in a hurry. I mean, he's had multiple stretches in his career of 7, 8 birdies made in a row, most notably last at the 3M Open, where he literally almost took down that golf tournament for us. We had a 250 to 1 ticket on him. But he ended up being great for us in DFS that week. So I'm going to be on him here. He's somebody who, again, can get nuclear. Adam Hadwin at $7,100. It's a great price tag for a good course fit. Also playing the easiest golf course. Patrick Rogers is going to be a fade. He's at Spyglass. Nick Taylor, Pat Perez, Stuart Sink, Taylor Moore. Same story, right? They're at Spyglass Hill. No need to go ahead and prioritize them. Matthew Neesmith's good at short golf courses. He's playing at Monterey Peninsula. He's worth a few looks at. Alex Smalley, highly volatile player. If you're looking for somebody that can either get to 7, 8 under par or probably shooting over par, if volatility is what you're looking for, he's your guy. Dean Burmeister, in terms of pedigree, he's extremely underpriced. He's more in line with these guys priced at the 8K range, like a Minwoo Lee, Chris Kirk, Russell Knox. He's that type of golfer. So if you're looking to buy in on pedigree, somebody playing at Pebble Beach, you can go ahead and do so. He hasn't looked horrible this week. He hasn't looked great either, but at the same time, we've seen this guy on the European Tour. He's competed over there week in and week out. He's a top 10 player on the European Tour, and that translates over to America. We've established that over the years. Sahith Theegala, we haven't been on to this point. He's great on the West Coast. We talked about that last week. That's why he was a core pick for us. At Pebble Beach, I think his skill set fits it a little bit better. At some of these other golf courses, it's more of a wedge fest. Sahith hasn't really shown us that he's a wedge player over the years. But at Pebble Beach, you do have a few more long irons than what we have at Spyglass. Same thing at Monterey Peninsula. So you could convince me to play him today. Troy Merritt also playing a good golf course. Chad Ramey, same story, playing over there at Pebble Beach. You can convince me to play both of them. In terms of model ranking, both top 20 course fits. And this is why I want to live in the 7K range, guys, is almost every other play here, somebody I really like. You know, somebody that's a good course fit, top 20 course fits here in terms of model ranking, top 10, top 8, top 20. I don't need to go up to the stud tier range and try to fit in 2 to 3 of them. That's what literally everyone else is going to do. What you can do to be a little bit different today is, sure, pick your favorite guy up top. I think Patrick Cantlay is going to be most of your guys' options, and I would not try to talk you off of that. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. And then go ahead and dip into the 7K range and just take 5 more of these 7K guys. Leave $500 to $1,000 on the table. You're taking guys that you can have a lot of confidence in and also know that you're going to be unique. But if you go up to the top here, take up Patrick Cantlay at $10,800, try and squeeze in, let's say, one of these 9K guys, one of these 8K guys, you're immediately pinching yourself into a very small portion of the field, right? You're actually a large portion of the field is what I'm trying to say. You're duplicating yourself on a 3-on-3 with 20, 30% of the field, whatever it's going to be, because Patrick Cantlay is probably going to be upwards of 30, 40% owned. If you go to somebody like a Seamus Power, like a lot of the field's going to do, 35, 40% owned. And starting with just those two right there, you're going to be duplicated with, let's say, 20, 25% of the field. And then you're going to have a 4-on-4 with them, which is not what you want to be doing. If you can go ahead and take one of them, right, and completely avoid that 10 to 20% margin of exposure, it's really going to help you guys. So we'll show you at the end some of the strategy going into making your lineups today. But as per usual with Showdown, I don't think you need to avoid the chalk. So if you like playing Seamus Power today, by all means, go ahead and do so, but differentiate with your lineup construction. It doesn't always have to be with your ownership percentage. You're able to do it in that type of fashion as well. Let's move down into this value range, though. Matthias Schwab, he's a sneaky course fit. We talked about him at the beginning of the week, also playing at Monterey Peninsula. Hayden Buckley is starting to look more and more legit as the weeks go on. At first, the shots gained metrics were just pointing to this guy being an absolute stud. You can see that's the same case this week, even with some horrible numbers on Poa Nua. and he's playing out of his mind again. So this guy might just be one of the better players on tour that's just came out. So really do like him there. We'll stop for a few questions, comments before we touch on the 6K range. Let's see. Who are your two favorite guys? Let's go ahead. I guess we can touch on it right now. Number one's Patrick Cantlay, right? I think it makes a whole lot of sense. But my second favorite play is in the 7K range. And we talked about him here a minute ago. Where is he at? I'm blind now. Oh no, he's in the 8K range. That's why I'm blind here, guys. I'm so sorry about that. It's Brian Harman, right? Like I said before, if he makes a ton of putts, going to be an absolute stud here. He's $8,500. He's coming in with, it's a single-digit % ownership right there. He's a second man in for me, right? So if I take a Patrick Cantlay, take a Brian Harman, that's going to differentiate myself from a lot of the field, particularly if I leave a little bit of salary on the board. So that's to answer your question there. Next up, we are stuck on Smalley or Villegas at $7,100 left. So let's go ahead and take a look. So I have both of them in my player pool. Villegas should be down at this part of the leaderboard. Maybe I've gone a little bit further too down. Villegas is, here at $7,100. He's playing Pebble Beach. And the other guy was Smalley, right? And Smalley's a little bit more expensive, or at least he was to start the week. Up here, and he's still $7,100, but he's had a significant price decrease over the week. Both playing Pebble Beach. Personally, I'd probably be going toward, I wouldn't take Smalley, I'd take Villegas, particularly if you're in a cash contest. Smalley's a little bit higher upside, but he's also highly more volatile. He's somebody who's a little bit more prone to shoot over par. Villegas would be the guy there for me. You said I'd go with Hadman with 71K left. I do like Hadman as well, right? So he's also in the player pool. But between those two that he gave, I'd say Villegas, I'd probably like Hadman more than those two, to be honest with you as well. That is a good insight there. And you find winning showdowns at higher ownership or lower ownership. So it's like any other GPP, right? Regardless of sport. You can win GPPs having all chalk among all 6 positions. That also gives you a much higher chance of being duplicated with the field, which inherently lowers your expected value. If you're splitting first place in these large field contests, where you're seeing 25% of the entire prize pool being paid out to first place, that long-term cripples you. That'll take you from being a positive player in terms of DFS. If you're somebody that can beat the edge, right, the inherent edge with the rake that these contests have is 7 to 8%, right? So if you're 7 to 8% better than the average DFS player, you'll be profitable long-term. That's if you execute correctly, right? That's if you're taking into account game theory, those type of things. If you're just playing chalk across the board, that type of thing, trying to take it down, that's going to lower you closer to an average player, which could very well mean that you're a losing player over time. So that's why you always want to try and target some of these low-owned pivot plays. That's why I don't like taking 3 or 4 chalky guys in the same lineup. It helps you avoid that type of thing. Anyone 6.3K lower worth a GPP dart throw? Yeah, we're going to get to that here in a second. It's risky as hell, right? So in my opinion, you shouldn't really be having that much salary left. I'm a huge proponent for leaving salary on the table. So I would say rebuild. We will get to a few guys that'll be worth playing. So if you really, really like those other 5 guys, sure, we'll get to it. So Kyle Stanley down here. Yeah, I will get to him. I have him in my player pool. I think you see that on the spreadsheet there. I'd be okay with him. Quinn, what is going on, dude? Hopefully you're doing well today. Got some prize picks props for NBA, hopefully, for today. And then Mito said, struggling. How do you feel about him today? I'm okay with it. Yesterday, I believe he shot even par or something like that. He was playing at one of the easier golf courses, so it's a little bit concerning, but he's right on the cut line. I'm willing to take a lot of risk on those type of people, particularly the guys that are really strong iron players. Slim Shades, with what happened to Tringale? Tringale had one of those weeks. Like I said, when I tend to play Tringale, he goes out and shoots 8 over par. When I don't, he's first round leader. He's an extremely volatile player. When he has his stuff, he's going to be in contention. When he doesn't, he's missing the cut. He's trunk slamming. So it's one of those weeks where he has his off game. It's going to happen from time to time. He's just one of those players like a Bryson DeChambeau, right? He either contends, it finishes in the top 5, or he misses cuts. That's just what happens to him. You said Tringale, Ryan Jones, kill me. How are they doing? I mean, clearly not well. I mean, you know that they're killing you. Yeah, I mean, Rye started off really well. So, I mean, you probably looked really good after the first 2-3 holes. He was 3 under through 4 holes. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, they didn't play well for you this week. That sucks. They were 5-6% in my player pool. So they didn't kill me by any means, but you could play them in Showdown today, right? A lot of people like you don't want to play them in Showdown because they feel bummed about them. They feel like, oh, I'm never going to play this guy again. That's typically when these guys go out and shoot 5-6 under par. So I wouldn't let that cloud your judgment if you're playing Showdown for today. If somebody models out well, I know Tringale's playing horribly. I wouldn't recommend playing him there. But a Ryan Jones, I might be willing to try and get back to, particularly because they're going to be cheap. They're playing a decently easy golf course today. And like I said, people like you are going to get pissed about it and not want to play them, right? And that's exactly when I want to play those guys, because they're going to come in extremely low owned. And quite frankly, golfers have bounce back rounds all the time. Let's move down a little bit further. So if you guys can go to it in this 6K range that I like, Ryan Armour, we liked him going into the week. He'll be at Monterey Peninsula. He makes a lot of sense there. Ryan Moore also makes sense at $6,800. He's really good at these shorter tracks. He hasn't really started well to this week, which is going to keep him minimally owned. He's going to be sub 1%. You can see I have him for 0.51% right now. Makes him a great play there. Austin Eckroat will be a little bit chalky, but I'll be on him. His iron play has been immaculate. Before the week, we said we didn't know much about Austin Eckroat, right? He was somebody who in my modeling was just jumping off the board. So he was in my player pool, but I warned you guys. I said this guy could very well go out and flame out this week, or he's going to go out there and he's going to prove that he's the real deal. It's the latter this week. He's proving that he's legit. A lot of these guys that come out of Oklahoma State are just absolute studs. So it doesn't surprise me at all that he was there. You said, yeah, he was over the field because they're coming in with good form. Play Showdowns, just checking it on you. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you don't play Showdowns? That's all right. Yeah, man. It's tough, man. Sometimes recent form can be tricky, right? Because it's a volatile sport, right? There's guys that'll go out, they'll win 2-3 times in a row, and then they'll miss the cut 2-3 times in a row. So yeah, man, recent form is a tough one because it's important, but we can't rely on it for everything. Certainly sometimes it gets you a little bit thrown off. And you said your screen is very hard to read. Can you focus on the left half? Usually when that happens, try and up it up to the HD quality. It should be able to if you hit the little settings button in the bottom right. And if you make it full screen, you should be able to see it. So let me know if that fixes it. It's on StreamYard, so I don't have that much control over the screen right here. But let me know if that fixes it for you. Usually for me, it does. And then you said, I came in late. What about your boy Rogers? He didn't look very good yesterday, so I'm not going to be playing Patrick Rogers. I don't think he's the best course fit either. So I'm not really on Patrick Rogers here. All right, let's keep going down a little bit further down the board. Bo Hostler shot 8 under at Spyglass Hill yesterday. Now he gets Pebble Beach. He's cheap. He should still at least be moderately owned, right? I have him at 8% right here. I'm going to have plenty of Bo Hostler today. He's that cheap guy that played well at this tough golf course. Now he gets the easy golf course. And yes, I know how hard it is to back up a really good round, but he's getting an easier golf course today. So if there's going to be any situation where you can go out there and back up that type of a round, it's going to be in this situation. On the converse, right? You don't want somebody that went out, shot 7 under at Pebble Beach yesterday, and then heading over to Spyglass. That would be the opposite of what we're looking for. We already talked about Camilo Villegas. I think he makes a lot of sense. Mark Hubbard here, he's $7,100. So he's a little bit more expensive than what he came coming into the week. He's a good course fit. He's great with those wedges. The putting on Poanua isn't ideal, but over the last few weeks at the American Express, last week at the Torrey Pines, he's putted well. He's kind of bucked that trend. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass there. As of right now, I have him at 0.00% ownership. There's no way that's correct, right? But he's still going to be coming in maybe 0.51, 0.5% ownership, that type of thing. Trivial to get over with the field. A few guys down here that might be a little bit chalky that we want to talk about. Maybe not this far down the board, but like we said, Austin Eckroat's going to be getting his fair amount of ownership. Austin Smotherman's going to be getting quite a bit. Austin Eckroat as well. Those type of guys you got to be careful about, right? Because when you're going down low, I'm much more willing to take a scatter shot approach where I'm taking 20, 30 of these guys in this 6K range and concentrating my ownership on the guys that I would call core plays in that 8, 9K range. That's typically what's been the most successful for me in DFS. So anytime you get somebody that's 8 or even 10% owned, like an Austin Eckroat, you got to be damn sure that you like them, right? Because that's going to take 5, 10, even 15 of those 30 players out of your player pool, because you have to allocate 20, 25% to get leverage on 10%. And you have to allocate 15 to 20% to get significant leverage on somebody like a Bo Hostler. And I really do like both of those plays. But I've had any questions about them all, like I do with an Austin Smotherman, where I think a little bit of this could be small sample size. I'm going to fade, right? Because I need to be trying to take some of these shots in this range. So that's why we can't play all these chalky options. In fact, you can make an argument to play only one of those three, right? To take an Eckroat or to take somebody like a Hostler out of the player pool. We'll have to see after I get off here and I'm making my final crunch whether I can fit in both of them. But 8%, 10% ownership down low is a way bigger difference than 8 to 10% ownership up top, right? Your average ownership of those stud tier guys are going to be in the 20, 25% range. Whereas down here, your average ownership might be 1%. It's probably lower than that. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's all relative there. Did that help? You appreciate the info though, bro? Yeah. Justin Berg, hopefully that fixed it for you, by the way. If it didn't, go ahead and let me know. And I can try and make this completely full screen. I can try and tinker around with it. All right, let's move down a little bit further after talking about that strategy talk. Peter Uline is a highly volatile player you could go to. He's at Pebble Beach. Paul Barjon has been in good recent form the last few weeks. You can convince me to get behind him. Kiradek, our often barn rat, the vape god. If you guys haven't seen him, he vapes on the golf course. It's hilarious to see. He's $6,800. He's playing Pebble. He gets really hot with the putter at times. And you can always convince me to play the vape god. He's hilarious. Tyler McCumber, he's playing the Monterey Peninsula course. He's also a really solid iron player, can get hot from time to time. Same thing with Brandon Hagee, one of those highly volatile players. Another guy I'd like to scattershot on would be Luke Donald. We played him for our 4-round stuff. Brian Gay just turned 50 the other day, but the guy, you wouldn't know it by watching him play some golf. The guy's been an absolute stud over this fall swing. He'll be in the player pool, and I believe that's it. Yeah, just a whole sea of red down here, guys. The bottom of the leaderboard, $6,100, $6,200 is just a complete dead zone. I know we had a question just a second ago about the $6,300 range, so let's go ahead and see if there's anybody I'd be willing to take. Sung Kang is $6,400. I know that doesn't fit your mold right there, but it's getting close to it at the very least. Ryan Gay's $6,500. Yeah, man, I don't think there's going to be anyone in that range that you want to take, at least with any type of confidence. I mean, if we had to go ahead and try to force somebody in, Sung Yul No is $6,300 exactly. You could convince me to play him in one or maybe two of my 150 lineups. Richie Wierenski is $6,300. You can convince me to play him in one or two of my 150 lineups. Yeah, man, it's a crapshoot down here. Yeah, well, let's just leave it at that. Those are the only two I'd even consider adding in one or two of my 150 lineups. I'm much more willing to take more of a balanced approach. So that's what I'm going to be doing for today's slate. It's a crapshoot down low. You're dealing with similar ownership numbers with some of these guys in the higher 6K range. You can see right around here, 1, 5, 7, 3, and some of the guys in the lower 7K range. You can still see guys that are right around 1% ownership here. Sure, towards the higher end of the 7K range, start to get 7, 8%, that type of thing. But we still have some of these lower owned guys here. So it's not as big of a dead range as you'd expect. And of course, some of the guys at the bottom of this board, where this whole sea of red is, you can see all these red boxes here, the really dark boxes. That's not a good thing, by the way, guys. This is like they're some of the worst players in the field for every single stat. That's why they're going to be a fade there. All right, now that we've gone through the player pool, see if there's any questions, comments down in chat, and we're going to finish it up with some lineups and some strategy talk. So Slim says, unfortunately, I don't have the option to stream golf these days, so I can't watch the guys at even par a few strokes up. It's possible to come back and make the cut today. Oh, yeah, dude, this sucks if you can't watch the golf. I really wish it was more accessible. I mean, right now we're getting ESPN Plus, which is a huge, huge improvement over what we saw over these last few years. So that's at least been an improvement. But the fact that we can't see every golfer that's playing, that's like saying that you want to watch the Chelsea versus Man U game, right? But we're only going to show you the last 5 minutes of every half. And I know that's an extreme example, but completely agree with you there. Are you playing 150K in the 50K on DK? No, I'm not playing in 50. I'm not playing 150 in the large field contest. No, not today. I have 150 lineups spread over a bunch of 20 maxes, a bunch of the lower dollar single entry stuff. And then there's the $8, it's like 53 entry max contest. I have like a whole 53 set in there. So that'd be like my main lineup. So there's 53 there. But no, I don't usually play in that large field GPP because it's like 35% of the prize pool to first place. Which makes it extremely volatile. So if you're looking for more of a consistent return, you don't want to be playing that large field GPP. You want to be playing some of the smaller field things, single entry stuff, but spreading out a large net over a lot of those different contests rather than playing that large contest. Anytime you get anything where it's like crazy amount of money to first place, that's fun to play. Millie makers are a lot of fun to play. But if you're looking for a sustainable option for a bankroll, it's not your thing. All right, so let's go through the strategy component of this. So Like we said before, for anybody that's just hopping in here, my main strategy for today is going to be taking one of these guys up top, somebody like a Patrick Cantlay, a Jordan Spieth, potentially going to somebody, not a Tringali, like a Justin Rose, Kevin Kisner, Kevin Strillman. We could start with two of the guys if we started in the 9K range. So if you wanted to take both of the Kevins in the same lineup, I'd be willing to do that. But in terms of guys that are 9K plus, like true elite tier options, I only want one of them in my lineup. Everyone's going to be trying to fit in multiple. I'm going to be trying to differentiate myself this week via lineup construction, not necessarily via ownership. So that's how I'm going to be attacking this slate. When I'm taking one of these guys in the 10K range, as we'll see here in a second when I actually get over the Draftkings, I'm going to be living in this high 7K range, lower 7K range for literally the last 4 to 5 players in my lineup. I'm going to leave about $500 to $1,000 on the table, and that's how we're going to go ahead and make most of our lineups for this week. So go ahead and move into the DraftKings lineup portion. It's usually easier to show you guys the strategy live, just actually making a lineup, going through my rationale and whatnot. And at the end here, we're also going to go through some of our weekend picks. I did not forget you there, dropping birdies. We will get to that after we go through this. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. There you guys go. And Bradley says, appreciate your words of wisdom. Just found your channel and subbed. Hey, appreciate that, man. Appreciate the support here. Good luck today with all of your lineups, whether you guys are doing DFS or prize picks today. All right, let's move into the player pool. So like we said before, this is going to be for a GPP build. So a lot of the first man in for these type of lineups is going to be Patrick Cantlay. Like I said before, he's going to be extremely chalky. But if we're going to try and take him in a lineup, making sure that we differentiate with our lineup construction is going to be even more vital because he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate. The immediate way that I'm going to go ahead and do that is just to leave this a sub-tier range. The highest guy I'd consider even taking would be a Kevin Kisner, but to make sure that we're 100% going to be unique, we're going to dip down just a little bit further. We're going to go ahead and start off with a Brian Harman, who, like I said before, the ball striking has been amazing this week. Last week just couldn't buy it. Yesterday just couldn't buy a putt. So really do like him at $8,500. He's a little bit further down the board, so we know that we're going to be a little bit less likely to be duped. Now we can stick towards the top of the 7K range. Like I said before, there's a lot of guys here that I really like. First and foremost, we go down here. It's actually mostly the bottom of the 7K range that I like the most. Let's go ahead and try and squeeze in another guy towards the top here, though. We don't need to be leaving $2,000 on the table. Mackenzie Hughes is playing an easy golf course. He would be a logical next man in. He's a little bit more expensive than I would like to go. I would like to stay in this 7K range if we can. He'd be an option. Lucas Glover, if you expect him to have a bounce back day, also somebody you could consider. Grayson Sigg, I believe, is also playing an easy golf course. Let me go ahead and check on Grayson Sigg real quick. It's easy enough to check that. Grayson Sigg. He's playing Pebble Beach. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and take Grayson Sigg. He's a little bit cheaper than somebody up here at $8,100, like a Mackenzie Hughes. Also very similar course fit. So there, we're down to $7,600 remaining per player. So leaving salary on the table is not going to be an issue. So we can pretty much take whoever we want at this point. Next man in, next logical man in, Scott Stallings, I believe, is also not playing Spyglass Hill. We'll go ahead and double check on that, though. I'm blind. And by the way, every time you're making a lineup, by the way, don't go off of your memory because I was wrong there, right? Scott Stallings is playing Spyglass Hill. So that's why we go ahead and double check this. When there's 156 players in the field, I don't expect you guys to be remembering that off the top of your head. So he wouldn't be the move. Keith Mitchell, somebody I'd much rather go to as a replacement there. Like we said before, he can get hot in a hurry. This isn't the best course fit for Keith Mitchell, but when he has that magical putter working, it doesn't really matter where he's at. The 3M Open wasn't even a great course fit for Keith Mitchell. So I'll have him there at $7,300. Another guy we could use as a next man in. Adam Hadman's playing the easy golf course today. I think he makes a lot of sense. His form hasn't been immaculate, but he's still at 4 under par, still in contention here, which is much better than some of these guys that are well over par. And for the last man in, I mean, we can spend up a little bit even if we want to and still leave quite a bit of salary on the table. Joel Damon is playing Spyglass Hill, or else he would be an excellent option today. Let's go ahead and take Mackenzie Hughes. If we do that, we're leaving $400 on the table. And because we didn't take two of the guys 9K plus, I'm still relatively confident this will be a unique lineup. I mean, Keith Mitchell, you're going to be looking at sub 2% ownership. Somebody like an Adam Hadman, sub 5%, I would imagine. Same thing on somebody like a Mackenzie Hughes, which is, even though we're taking chalky options like a Grayson Sig, will probably be at least right around 10%. Patrick Cantlay could be 40, even 50% owned today. This is the type of GPP lineup I'm trying to target. In terms of optimal projection, all of these guys were in my player pool to begin with, all projecting for decent points per dollar value. Also relatively high owned, right? I mean, the lowest owned guy that we're going to have here is going to be a Keith Mitchell or a Mackenzie Hughes. And these are well-established tour players that aren't these unknown quantities or unknown entities that a lot of the other people in the field are. So that's what I'm looking for in a large field GPP. Just because we're trying to get unique doesn't mean that we have to make bad lineups. And a lot of people mix that up. They misconstrue that, right? Making unique lineups doesn't mean making suboptimal lineups. It means constructing them in a way that's intelligent and to leverage off of other people. Edwell says Eckroat and Wyndham Clark. I am in on Eckroat. He's going to be a little bit chalky today, so keep that in mind, Ed. Wyndham Clark, I'm all right about it. You know, I don't side one way or the other with Wyndham Clark. He's good on the West Coast. I'll give you that. But yeah, I really like Eckroat there. He's going to be a little bit chalky, but I'm okay with it. He's one of the chalky guys in the 6K range that we'll be on today. Let's go ahead and make a cash lineup. So if you're playing in cash, I don't have a problem taking multiple guys up top. Again, ownership, duping with other people is irrelevant when it comes to this type of format. So taking a Patrick Cantlay, taking a Seamus Power as well is definitely the move there. I don't think that you have to argue. I don't think you have to try and be cute up top. You're going to see 30, 40% of people take both of these options here. And cash, probably closer to 70, 80% of the field, which certainly is the optimal move in that type of field. That's going to put you at $7,300 remaining per player, which does handicap the rest of your lineup quite significantly. But as we saw before, there are quite a few good options down to this bottom of the 7K range. In terms of guys that are safe plays, first off, let's go ahead and take our value. Let's take Austin Eckroat, who we just talked about, also going to be a relatively chalky option for this slate. But he played excellently his first 2 rounds, also gets an easy golf course today. And let's go ahead with Beau Hossler as well. Hossler, again, shot 8 under at Spyglass Hill yesterday, completely launched himself up the leaderboard, and now he gets an even easier golf course. So you have 2 chalky options in that range. It actually gives us a little bit more wiggle room in terms of salary, which I'm also digging here as well. I believe Troy Merritt, and we'll double check this. Troy Merritt should be playing the easy golf course. Yes, he is. He's playing Monterey Peninsula. He's a great 5th man in, and that gives us a whole $8,300, which Russell Knox, I believe, is playing Spyglass Hill. We will double check on that. If he's not, he'd make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, he is. So he's not going to be an option. But of course, Mackenzie Hughes, who we went to in our other lineup, would make a whole lot of sense there. Or we could spend down even a little bit farther, go to a Grayson Sig. But we'll take Hughes here. We don't need to leave salary on the table here. This is what I'd be looking at for cash, right? Guys that are chalky across the board. We have the chalky value plays. We also have the chalky spend up options in this lineup. And then 2 guys here that are filling in the salary, really just filling in the gaps that project well. So that's what we'd be looking at for a cash contest. If you're looking to swap anyone out, these are the 3 that I'd really be building around the most. It would be an Eckroat, a Power, and Cantlay. They're the 3 best cash plays on the slate. If you wanted to differentiate, you could very easily just take the 3 other guys that you prefer there. That's all we've got here for today's slate. So we'll go ahead and touch on any of the comments here before we get out of here. Power's playing very well. Understatement of the century, dude. I mean, the guy's got a 6-stroke lead, obviously. But yeah, man, I like playing him for cash. That's for sure. He's going to be chalky today. For large field GPPs, though, you could very well argue that he's a good fade. Merritt it is. Merritt is a cash staple. I'd be okay with it, right? He's not going to be super duper high owned just because it's Troy Merritt. He's up there towards the leaders. I believe he's in the top 10 at this point. But chalky, but really good chalk. I don't know if he's going to be as chalky as you expect, but I like the play, right? If he's going to come in at right around 10% ownership, I'll have 20, 25% today. Completely agree with you there, guys. That's all we're going to have for the end of this live stream. I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you're watching the replay, feel free to put any questions you have down in chat up until lock. I'll try and get back to you guys before 11:30. Good luck with all of your lineups for today. We are going to try and have our live stream out tonight, right around 8:30 p.m. Today, obviously, I wanted on Friday night just to enjoy myself, go out with some friends, that type of thing. So went out and did that, didn't do the live stream, didn't do our prize picks content last night. Tonight, though, we will be getting that content out. So you'll have a little bit more time to digest it. Sometimes you got to take the time off, right? That's just how it works. So good luck with today, guys. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put them down in chat, and good luck.